again, we'll call this episode 2. I'm going to be doing some more work with Python to try to create some poetry. I'm kind of making this up as I go, or figuring it out as I go, so hopefully it makes some sense. The idea of a video, of course, is that you can pause it and fast forward it or rewind it if it doesn't make sense. So hopefully this is going to continue to going well. I've got a different colored shirt on today, so I'm not going to be fading in and out as I move left and right, so hopefully that'll be a bit more clear. All right, so I'm going to start as I did yesterday or in the previous episode. With my terminal, I'm just going to launch the Jupyter Notebook that I had going before. And I want to do this in slightly different ways just to kind of remind you, if you're not familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, how to navigate those. So I'm using this from my command line, and you may not be doing it from there, but one thing to notice as I do this is where I am in this location in my command line. If you type pwd in a terminal, you should see where you are. Currently I'm at users/Zach Whalen, which is my top directory, my home directory for myself as a user. So if I start Jupyter Notebook from here, it's going to come up with the stuff related to all the files and folders that are in my home directory, which is a ton of stuff that isn't related to programming. All my programming stuff I put in this PG folder, which is where I started it yesterday, and then I have creative coding for this particular set of projects, and I have been putting my example Python notebooks in this examples folder, which is also synced on GitHub. So if you want to look at these directly, you can look at them there. So let's see, what was I working on the other day? Oh yeah, so it was this Python notebook called untitled1.pnb, and the first thing I want to make sure to change about this that I forgot to do yesterday was to give this a name that actually relates to the content. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. Oh, I forgot to start my timer, so I'm starting my timer now. 10 minutes, let's see how it goes. See what I can get done in 10 minutes. So this is a poem, so I'm going to call this a poem. I kind of liked this little template I came up with. If you remember, it originally said, I am a walrus, I live near the beaches, when I'm alone I secretly eat peaches. I was thinking about it though, and it doesn't scan perfectly, the meter's not exactly right, so I was thinking about making one slight change to this, to I eat secret peaches. I kind of like the sound of that line because of the repeated E sound, so that'll be the new template, and so I want to call this project Secret Peaches, just because I like the sound of that, and we'll see if I can make something that will keep that kind of consistency in the sound. That'll be a challenge. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but I'll do my best, I guess. So again, our challenge here in making this poetry is to start with this template, like you see here. It's in the red here because it's being stored as this string variable. And our goal is to make it so that when the program runs, it can generate one or however many stanzas like this we want. And every time it runs that stanza, it's going to look a little different. So it's going to swap out different parts of that with different things that I give it. Because this has meter and rhyme, I need to do some things to make sure that the things I give it match the meter and rhyme that is expected in this template. If you're doing this yourself, you could do a similar kind of template, or you could do a limerick as a template, or a sonnet as a template, or haiku, or something like that. But you'll work differently with meter and rhyme, of course, given the differences of those templates, those formats. Okay, so let's see where we are right now. So those are the two changes I wanted to make so far. And what I did last time is I set up PyCorpora to interface with the Corpora database from GitHub, and I can call up different types of things from that list. So I want to pull up the Corpora GitHub repository again, just to kind of remind myself what's in here. Everything that's interesting in this is in the data folder, where you have lists of lists and categories of lists of kinds of things. So one things we might think about, like my walrus originally lives near the beaches. It might be interesting to come up with other places that our creatures live. So we have specific oceans as a list of things we can work with. That might be interesting to think about. Or just like English towns and cities. So I don't know if we want to make them live near Ashby Wolds. Is that how you say that? I don't know. Then that might be kind of interesting. But of course, with all these lists, what we're going to have to do is make sure that it's the right number of syllables and the right stress. But we'll be able to figure that out eventually. Okay, so again, what I did is I have this template, I've created it, and then I've made a variable called an animal, and then I plopped this animal into the format function to transform that as it's printed. There was one other thing here I didn't change yet, which was the food. I just have it as a static value that's being given to the template as olives. And so I'm going to go ahead and start by giving this thing different foods. It's going to break our rhyme pattern for now, but we'll figure out what to do about that later. So let's see what we have here. So we have data, we have foods. There's a list of bad beers. That's interesting. Keystone Light, that's not that bad. drinkable. Fruits. Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting fruits here. Maybe we'll go with fruits. This is worth noting. This is a public repository, so people contribute things all the time. I just noticed an interesting, the most recent commit, which is a change submitted by a different user. This user here, I guess, hey, it's Jeff, committed this change with it and added the note, tomato is a fruit. So we have some ontological claims being made here. So anyway, so we have this list of fruits, and I want to try to work with this in PyCorpora. So I'm going to do kind of like I did here with the crayon test, to just see what this looks like. I want to just do this in a cell down here. And the way I like to work is have little cells below, like have a sort of major working area where my script is coming together, but down here I try different things out and see how they look. So let's see, PyCorpora dot, what was it? Foods dot fruits. Should get us the object. Oops, now I have to run my PyCorpora constructor first. So let me grab PyCorpora there with that cell. That didn't work that first time because I hadn't run, since I rebooted the server, I didn't have PyCorpora imported yet, so I just had to rerun this cell to import it. So let's try that again, and hopefully it works. There it goes. Great, so now I have PyCorpora.foods.fruits as a long list, and it's a list that's structured a little bit differently than, or similarly to animals, but with an extra value. The only value I need within here is this one called fruits. So kind of like what we did before with animals in see if I can point to it over here, is I need to call it by name, and I want to make this bigger so it's a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. And make sure I'm using my real estate well here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So over here again, I'm going to do like I did with animals. If I can reach over there, I'm going to do something similar down here with fruits, and only get the list of fruits from the fruits list. I don't need the description. Some of the lists are going to be structured with different kinds of data and different kinds of groups of data, so you have to always kind of check the Corpora database to see what's available. So now I have a list of fruits. So I can, like I did with up here, this line here, which will randomly select an animal, I can do a similar kind of thing to randomly select a fruit, random.choice, and then pass that the fruits list into the choice method for the random module and see what we get. I don't know what that is. Feijoa? I've never heard of that. What is that? Okay. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's a fruit. That looks interesting. All right, well, see, this is a great thing about programming. You learn all kinds of things you wouldn't expect to learn. So now we've learned about this fruit, which goes by different names. That's seems like popular in South America. So, all right, great. We can run it again and get something. Okay, cherimoya, I know that one. That one's a bit unusual, but you know, okay, orange, great. So these are all different kinds of fruits that we can get, and we can add them into our template constructor the same way we did before. This is a little bit heavy-handed. I'm going to come up with a slightly more elegant way to do this going forward, but we'll go with fruit for now. Actually, let's call this food just in case we decide we want to change this out for other kinds of fruit, and we want to be clear with our variable names whenever possible. And I just need to grab this whole line that I did before, move it up here to this main area, this main constructing area here. And if I run that, I'm not going to see any change yet because I've still passed it the name olives over here. I'm still passing it olives. So now I just need to, instead of giving it the static value olives, I need to give it the variable food, which is going to be pulling from that list. So let's see what we get here. I am a prairie dog. I live near the beaches, and when I'm alone, I eat secret damson. I don't know what damson is either. A lot of fruits. What are all these? Okay. Great. So lots of different fruits. So there we go. So let's try it again and just kind of see what happens. What other things we can get? I am a toad. I live near the beaches. When I'm alone, I eat secret. Is it loquat? Loquat? I don't know. Interesting. All right. So there's a. I'm going to just go ahead and put the print arranged into the same cell so I don't have to keep running two cells. And since I don't need that one, I'm going to delete it. Let's see. I'm a lynx. I live near the beaches. When I'm alone, I eat secret apple. When I'm a baboon. I live near the beaches. When I'm alone, I eat secret date. All right, so that's okay. We should probably make that plural and do some other things to change this out, but we'll get to that a bit later. So, all right, so I do want to make one sort of structural change to the way I'm doing this right now to make things a little bit cleaner in terms of this code, and then we'll start dealing with rhyme. And then that, yeah, well, I think I'll just have time to restructure it for this episode. So let's see what we got. So we're doing this kind of heavy-handed thing where we're assigning this value, and then we are passing them in here. I want to do a new kind of structure here for this, and I'm going to do a function. I'm going to define a function that's going to give me one of those things, because there are a few other things I need to do to those things, and just to give me a good place to do that, I think a function would be nice. So I'm going to clear out my cells down below and make a new kind of clean slate here below. I'm going to make a new function. I'll call it the function get food, and to create a function, you use this structure here. You always def it first. So I'm defining a function called get food, and then I'm going to tell this function to do certain things and then return a value. So when I ask for this function to do something, it's going to give something back, which is going to be a food. And we know that the way to get food is this whole line here. So that's what we've got right now. Now, if I wanted to make this get different kinds of food, I could add different kinds of things and maybe have the function set so we take different arguments to get different kinds of foods and return them in certain ways. We'll get to that later maybe, but this is, for now, we're just dealing with fruits as the only kind of food we're dealing with. Okay, so for this case, we're going to just we kind of do the same thing we did before. So we're just going to say we're going to define this local variable called food inside of this function, and we're going to just return food. So far, really just doing the same thing we did before, but doing it inside of this function instead of up inside of the main part of the program. And just to try this function out, we can just run the function by naming it. There goes my timer, but it's okay. I'm just going to finish this out. So I can say get food like that, and just run that here. That's cleaner now because now that I've defined this function in my template where I'm constructing this output, I can just replace instead of calling the variable, I can actually just call the function straight from here. So I could say get food in place of the variable that I had before, and it should run just as before. Yeah, so got low quads again, and now red currents. So this is a little bit cleaner, and now I can delete this line actually, so I can keep, because I'm not using that value at this point. So each secret durian, great, looks pretty good. I'm going to go and also define a function for getting an animal with the same syntax. Down here, return animal. The nice thing about doing this is in functions, by the way, is I'm going to get a lot pickier with these lists. So like returning a rhyme and returning, so I need to make sure that the animal or the food that these functions are returning has the right rhyme and the right number of syllables. So I'm going to be adding some more things down here to make these more specific. But we'll see. For now, this is pretty good. So again, I can delete this here. I can replace the names variable here with just the function get animal, and works the same, but looks a little bit cleaner. So now that I've gotten pretty good with these functions here, I could move them up into my main program, but I think I'm just going to keep them down here in this cell for now. The main thing to remember is that these functions do need to be defined before you run them. So eventually they're going to need to go up into the main part of the program. But for now, I'm going to keep them in a cell here to keep it a little bit cleaner. So that's the end of episode 2.